to the Poetry of Justice show with Jackie Ray Phillips here on YikesRadio.com. Now you know, here on the Poetry of Justice show, this is where social consciousness meets the arts. And what we do is we select topics that spark the interest and awareness of social diversity, ranging from arts, entertainment, and social justice at large, leaving our listener thinking and saying in unison, yes! Radio.com. Hey, those are the sultry sounds of my mentor, the Mr. Kevin Nash. And you know, everybody, I always give a shout out and respect to thee, Mr. Kevin Nash, because of Kevin Nash's platform here at the Poetry of Justice show on Accelerated Radio. It allows me to be able to do what I love to do, which is this here on the show. And then I also like to give a special shout out to my sponsorship, which is Miss Lori Ray Fisher of Gingy Productions and Entertainment Company, as well as WMPJ Steelworks and APS Muscle Cars. So, guys, just want to let you know, at APS Muscle Cars, is everything okay, Rashid?
Yeah.
Everything okay?
Yeah.
Okay. At APS Muscle Cars, guys, we did some expansion. So, APS Muscle Cars has a new facility in Signal Hill for high-end vehicle storage. So, let's say, for instance, you know, like, well, Williams in the car game, and so that's what they do. So let's say, for instance, if you have some of your precious vehicles and you want it, make sure that it's stored someplace safe and secure, and all of these amazing different things that they do for you there. So that's over in Signal Hill. And what you want to do is you want to contact Mr. Phillips or William Phillips at www.apsmusclecars.com. So just wanted to put a full pub out there for Mr. Phillips, you guys. So, did I give Lori Ray hers? I didn't. I was being wild.
Wild.
What's going on with the two of you guys over there?
Our Facebook people, we're having some issues.
Okay, so
right
what's
now.
going on?
Yeah,
What's
I don't
happening? What's happening?
Um,
Talk to me now.
Yeah, we're trying to get it to record sideways.
I don't think that's gonna work. So, guys, this is it. We got a new tripod. Remember a couple weeks ago, we had some. Look, whatever you're doing right now is working.
Okay. So we'll
Whatever
keep
you're
that.
doing
Whatever
right
we're
now
doing
is working.
Okay.
Everything is like copacetic. See, look.
Oh, there we go.
I lost some of our
It's
taggers.
it's hard on the sister's hands,
But
but we're going to make it.
We gotta make it. I can totally take some of that.
Right,
when
okay.
When
We'll
we
share
switch
that.
reels. Absolutely. Let's
No, I'm
switch it out to
kidding.
the ground right now. I did that last week there. So.
Did you?
I absolutely.
Okay.
You know, I'm
On
a
the
jack
list,
of all trades,
new-
master of all.
new
no, I got it, dog. Come on, you can sit down.
Okay, I'm going to bring a chair right here.
It's being wild. So, speaking of which, how about we get a formal welcome back from you, darling? Why don't you come on this side? Is your
Hello,
mic working?
guys. I think it is.
Rasheed, her mic working?
I'm so happy to be back on the POJ show. I selfishly went to Jamaica to support a relative's wedding. It was so beautiful. And I haven't been to Jamaica in 13 years. I have forgotten how lovely it is. So, it was wonderful. I had a good time. But I missed the POJ show.
Because I know you. She ain't gonna do right.
I am.
So, okay, here we go. All right, I got the camera for right now, so yeah, so people don't know what's going on.
Like, what's happening with her?
Yeah.
No, I was in Jamaica. It was really great. My husband's cousin Emery and married his longtime girlfriend of 20 years, Yvette. So now they are Mr. and Mrs. Emery Williams. There was about 20 of us that went, and they got married on a private island. Really fancy. But I got a little R&R, so that was good. I was working on my tan. Did you guys notice?
I noticed that when I
You
came
did?
in.
Okay.
Good club.
Yes, absolutely.
But other than that, it was really great.
Yeah, right. Welcome back, Carter. Yeah, remember that song? Somebody got a new song out there. Welcome back.
It's not
welcome.
nice.
Who is that, Rashid? It's like some new. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Right. We're gonna have to try to figure that out tonight, huh? Anyway, guys, we're doing it. We're back. What's going on? Hey, Joe.
Yeah,
What's
so you
going
can see
on? People are probably what the hell. So we got to get a whole new get down, guys. We totally do.
Forget about it.
You want me to just hold it?
No, I'm good. I got it.
Anyway, guys, what we're going to be doing tonight is I have some amazing things happening tonight. We're talking tonight about casting. casting. We're going to be talking about casting. We're going to be talking about acting. We're going to be talking about the Me Too movement. So we're going to have some amazing things going on, George.
Okay. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
absolutely. So, but how we wanted to market the show tonight is we are pleased to have. Look at you, you're looking at me like.
Sorry.
No.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know, right? We're gonna have to get the drum rolls going.
Dun, 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 dun.
So I'm gonna go for it, everybody. To my immediate left, I have the assistant professor of theater practice in acting, entertainment industry, liaison officer. That was a mouthful because that's not even the tip of the iceberg, everyone, of where we're gonna be going tonight. So, I'm gonna go ahead and share the biography because it needs to be shared. Because I know, we do our research here in the Poetry of Justice show. I pride myself on that, Dan. And just for instance, I'm gonna give an early shout out to the G. Lou show. So I like to give a shout out to Mr. G. Lou and Queen Jean of the G. Lou show. I was interviewed earlier today, guys, which was my first official interview. Ooh, it was like, hey, very interesting, right?
Very fancy.
And so he asked me about one of the most important things about the Poetry of Justice show. One of the most important things I mentioned, Lori, is our research, our ability to research, and how when the show first launched, I would do pages, and which is bringing me back to where it's all gonna meet up tonight, but you see with my printouts and everything tonight, everyone. Lori and I will go into the radio station. I have mounds of papers and notes and Post-its and all kind of stuff, right? And we sit down with our guest, and we would probably get through 2 sentences of the work that we have done, all this research, right?
Okay.
And remember Professor B, he would
Professor B.
always tell me, he goes, you do all this research, you come in here with all this stuff, and you don't even get to it. But I want to say we pride ourselves in research. So because of that, I think it's necessary for our listeners to understand the gravity, and for my blessing to have you here on the show. And of course, George, you will have your formal introduction.
Oh, wow.
So, I just thank you for coming. So, Dan Shaner is an assistant professor of theater practice and acting at the USC School of Dramatic Arts. He has been a casting director in film, television, and new media for more than 25 years, working for every major studio and network. Film credits include Later Days, which won several awards, including the Outfest Audience Award. Buddy Boy, directed by Roman Polanski. Protege, right? Mark Hanlon. Love and Sex and Everything Put Together, directed by BAFTA and Golden Globe nominee Mark Forster, which were both in competition at the Sundance Film Festival in the same year. Additionally, films have featured Academy Award winner Octavia Spencer, guys. Right. Academy nominee Amy Adams. Academy Award nominee Julie Delpy, and country music superstar Willie Nelson, everybody. Among others, guys. I told you, that's why I said hold on to your butts. If you saw the, you know how I feel about Jurassic Park, Taylor Nicole. Hold on to your butts. Television credits include pilots starring Amy Adams, Minnie Driver, Michael Chilcless, Rob Lowe, guys, Wes Studi, and Maggie Q, among others. Series television credits include Cold Case, including future Academy Award winning guest stars Jennifer Lawrence and Melissa Leo, as well as then rising stars Darren Criss, Shailene Woodley, Michael B. Jordan, and Chadwick Boseman. Now Roswell, Moonlight, The Whole Truth, Chase, Ringer, Make It or Break It, and Hollywood Heights. As head of casting for 6 years at Wilshire Court Productions, he has 75 movies for television, garnering an Artios Award nomination and Cable Ace Award nomination, and featuring such stars as William H. Macy, Marge Heldenberger, Cicely Tyson, Neil Patrick Harris, and Virginia Madsen, among so many others. Prior to casting, Dan was a talent agent, representing actors, writers, and directors. Lori, we're going to talk to Dan about your directorial career. He teaches professional development and audition technique, George.
Okay.
You making a connection
Hey,
now?
you know,
You see what I'm
I'm
saying?
sitting real close
You
to
see
him.
who me and Lori called? We was like, hello.
Yeah.
We know the number 7 of them. Hello. You know how I am. I get a little wild sometimes.
Love it.
Okay, so Dan teaches professional development and audition technique at the USC School of Dramatic Arts in the MFA, BFA, and MA acting programs, and is the entertainment industry liaison officer and mentor to all 3 of the programs. He recently created, love that word, and heads the SDA Career Center, which is the very first of its kind in the entire nation, people.
Amazing.
Right?
Right.
Shana graduated from Michigan State University with a Bachelor's of Art in English and is a major fundraiser, Lori Ray, and volunteer with Project Angel Food and APLA. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, welcome to the show, the Dan Shaner.
Yes.
Yes, radio, yes, radio, yes, radio. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Jackie.
I feel like I'm on The Price is Right. You
I
know
do
what I mean?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, let me put my headphones on.
Oh,
y'all.
yeah,
That's
okay.
probably I'm so off the Richter right now. Okay, guys.
That was
Hi,
intense.
I was so loud. But that's you.
That was intense.
Okay, how you doing today?
Yeah,
Have a good
very
night.
informative.
Yeah, so far
Right?
so good.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to keep it on with the intros because I want us to be able to talk cohesively. So I need you to understand George.
Please. Oh.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Yeah.
There we go.
George, could you let everybody know your name?
Hello, my name is George Reister. Yes, ma'am.
Let me tell you guys a little. Let me tell you about my best friend. The courtship of Eddie's
Right.
Fire.
That's it. Mhm.
My favorite.
Wow.
I'm gonna give you the backstory a little bit, Dan, with George. George and I had the blessing, truly the blessing to meet on a community theater project that we were met on Chess the Musical.
Mhm.
And we had the most exciting time. It was
Yes.
Scottish Rites Theater.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Down in Long Beach. And I think Arts in Relation was the name of
Yes.
the production company that
Yes.
put that piece on. So that's how I got the blessing to meet Dan. We were Dan for me to meet George when we were on set. So then we've been keeping in touch, and he knows about the radio career. Came and did the show a while back, and I'm just kind of cruising one day at the house, and I flipped the channels, and I'm like, because he was telling me, Jackie, I'm gonna do this, and we would have our little dream fest. You know, like we were waiting on set. You know, we were waiting for our cues, and you know, you have your little moments and your little bitch sessions about what's happening on the set
Yes.
toward the end, and you know, taking our solos and flipping and flopping them, and then giving us a whole new solo at the last minute, and all the drama
Right.
started going around
Right.
the set. And it was just
Yeah.
so much fun, though.
Yes, it was.
And we're just, you know, watching this all go down, right? And we were talking about what we're gonna do. And we were like, we're gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this. And he said, I'm gonna be on the national commercial, Jackie. I'm telling you, I'm gonna be on the national commercial. And I'm like, yeah, George, you're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. You're gonna.
And he did it.
He
right?
did that.
Okay, good.
That part right there. And I'm like,
That's him. There he is.
So George, you know, it's always a treat when you bless us to come on to the show. And when Lori the shit told me about Dan Shaner, and Dan accepted to come to the show. And I just thought, what other better way to make this a phenomenal opportunity for our listeners to learn what it's like. So to know you were on one side, and then Dan Shaner with this fabulous information and
Yeah.
history and education and University of Southern California and on to the break of dawn. And I know your affinity for the university, but we can't talk about that because
Yeah.
of family ties.
You know?
See, listen. So, this is who we are tonight. So Dan, how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
Yay. So what's been going on with you when you listen to this amazing vignette, history,
Sounds like a lot of stuff.
on and on we can go.
It goes by in an instant
Oh
though.
my gosh.
Yeah.
How did it all start? How did you know that you wanted to be a talent agent? Maybe let's go to the talent agent.
Well, I was getting ready to graduate college at Michigan State, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I needed to get a job right away. So I was on my way to getting ready to come back to Los Angeles from Michigan, and I was watching television and packing up my bags and getting ready to come home, and I noticed that there was a casting by credit on one of the shows that I was watching, and I thought, I could do that. That seems like something I might be able to do. I grew up in a show business family and the entertainment industry, and I always knew I was really good with names and faces of actors and stuff like that. So I just thought, let me try that.
Yes.
So through a family friend connection, I met a casting director who was looking for an assistant. He had just gotten a television series, and he hired me as an intern, so he didn't pay me. And I brought my little electric typewriter from home with me every day to work, and we did 13 episodes. I worked with his assistant. We did 13 episodes of a television show. And then that was canceled, and so he didn't have any more work, so he then referred me to a friend of his.
No, I'm listening. Please continue. 'Cause
Um,
my thoughts are going, so I got
Yeah.
questions.
So just the way that it works in the industry, you know, people sort of refer to people that they know. And so he referred me to somebody else that was looking for an assistant. And so I worked with her for about a year and a half.
Okay.
Started as an intern, and then she started to pay me.
That's important.
See, that's right, right?
Yeah, slowly. And she did, she had a relationship with the director John Avildsen, who directed Rocky, and the Karate Kid movies, and so that's sort of how she made her career. And so I worked with her on some of his later films. And ironically enough, much later, I was teaching at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and John Avildsen's daughter was in my class. And he came and spoke to our class, and so that was a cute little reunion that we had much later.
Oh my God.
So then that casting job ended, as they often do. If you work for an independent casting director, they're going from job to job, essentially. And I needed a job, and so she called an agent friend of hers, a talent agent, who was looking for an assistant. And he hired me basically over the phone, and I became his assistant for about a year and a half, and then they promoted me and made me an agent.
Okay.
And so I was representing young actors, again, for about a year or two, and I really didn't like it. I much preferred casting. I didn't really like representing actors. I liked the actors, I liked working with the talent. I didn't like the selling part of it. It was very difficult for me. I feel like that's a very specific talent to have. It's like you're selling ice to Eskimos, you know, it's like you're selling people stuff they already have too much of. So I just wasn't enjoying that. And so I went on vacation, and they fired me while I was on vacation.
Yikes.
And it was the blessing of all time, so I was like, this is actually really good. I'm gonna go back into casting and do the thing that I really love to do.
Okay.
And so then I worked for two partners, Jane Jenkins and Janet Hershenson, who did all the Ron Howard movies, all the Rob Reiner movies, all the John Hughes movies. they did the first Jurassic Park, they worked with Steven Spielberg, they've just done tons and tons and tons of stuff, so I worked with them for a while. And then a friend of mine referred me to another job. There was a casting director who was very ill and was sick with AIDS, and I came in to sort of work and assist with him, and he ended up passing away, and so then I got his job, and I was working at a production company for 6 years, doing casting for film, all those TV movies that you mentioned.
Oh my, I mean, so like, how do you know? How do you know who's gonna get the part? What is that process like? Can you describe it?
So, I mean, every project obviously is different.
Okay.
Basically what we do is we provide the director or the producers and showrunners with choices, basically, for all the speaking roles. And then those individuals make those final decisions. And then we also, once those decisions have been made, then we actually hire everybody. We do all the paperwork, we do the negotiating, we generate cast lists and deal memos, and we oversee the credits and all of that stuff. So it's, once the actors have been chosen, then we sort of act as, I guess, sort of the HR portion of the production, and make sure that everybody is legal and hired and everything, knows where to go and what to do on the day.
How important is it to working with your SAG actors as opposed to individuals that are not? Are you allowed?
It's hard. So I have never really worked on a non-union project that I can remember. So it's hard to hire non-union actors on union shows and movies.
George, had you seen anything like that? Like, I know if your family, you've got a lot of experience in it.
Yes, it's being non-union or union definitely can be a challenge either way. I mean, sometimes, especially like right now, what we're experiencing from my perspective is that there are a lot more non-union jobs available now than union jobs.
Yes.
Yeah,
Especially commercially.
especially commercially.
Yeah.
And so it makes it difficult. And so you'll find union workers working non-union jobs now.
Is that normal?
It's tricky. You have to be careful. So depending on, how high profile the project is, if you are in the union and you do a lot of non-union work and the union finds out about it, you can definitely be sanctioned and
Yikes.
even expelled from the union. So you have to be very careful about doing that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
A lot of commercials now are being shot non-union. There was a commercial strike many years ago, 2009, I want to say, something like that. And the industry really has never completely recovered because what happened is the advertising companies started just hiring non-union actors. They started leaving the country and going elsewhere to cast their commercials, and they figured out that it was cheaper and more
That's
expedient,
insane.
and so it never really recovered. And so now you've got major corporations and Disney and Coca-Cola and these huge companies that are actually filming non-union commercials and hiring non-union actors, which is,
How does that
Yeah.
impact that old way of thinking or that old way of handling business? How does that impact
I mean,
the industry?
I think I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's caused some problems,
Yeah.
I think that there are certainly people who are very supportive of the union, and when I was a casting director full-time, I was also in a union. And there's a lot to be gained from being in the union, and a lot of benefits that you get from being a union member, and so to, willfully take non-union work is very tricky, and a lot of people have a lot of, problem with that, so.
Yeah.
There's been a big push recently with SAG trying to shift that to, hopefully turn the industry back around so that more union jobs are available rather than, the corporations or the people who are shooting to hire non-union people. So, I don't know how that's gonna shift, but.
It's tough. It's very tough because you know, it's all about money. The bottom line is money. And so if a production can use non-union workers, they don't have to pay them as much. And they can work them longer hours, and they don't have as many protections that they have to follow. And SAG is notoriously sort of slow
Right.
in responding. And now sort of with the explosion of new media and digital media and all these various platforms that are just kind of exploding, they're having a hard time. It's taking them longer to sort of respond to the changing landscape. And they're trying to be more nimble, but it's difficult.
Dan, what you see me doing is I'm responding to our Facebook.
Oh, okay.
So they're asking questions, so
Okay.
Lori and I kind of do like a little duality here, so please, in all due respect. She says our sound is a little bit in and out, but I have Ronald Jefferson, Lori. You may remember Ronald, we went to high school with. But anyway, his daughter, she is interested in being an actress. He kind of saw our ad today, Dan, and on Facebook, and he mentioned it. So he said he's watching now, Ronald. So if you want to call us, that'd be great. On behalf of your daughter, the phone number here is area code 310-910-9676, extension 1. Again, that's 310-910-9676, extension 1. And then we were talking about the SAG acting unit. If you're in the union versus not in the union, everybody. So if you are listening and tuning in, I just want everyone to know that. So I want to take a little time out there to let you know what we were doing here, guys. So yeah, we're gonna keep this train moving on. Keep it moving on. You guys ready to get into Me Too, or is that just too soon off the Richter scale to start talking about that?
It's your show, Jackie. We're just here visiting you.
Is that enough? Okay, I'm gonna go through a little bit more Dan shaming.
You just
Let's
run,
go into
you just
the
run
Dan
it, whatever you want to do. I'll do
Oh,
it.
guys, we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna get into it. We got ready to get nitty gritty. Let's get bucking in. Y'all ready to get bucking in? What time is it? Is it too early to get buck? I know.
Nah, never too early.
Oh yeah, it's never too. We're not gonna get wild.
Not wild?
We're not gonna
Oh,
get
okay.
Wow. But I don't know. So we're just, I wanna talk a little bit about, we were saying the topic of the show is just like what's going on in Hollywood casting, right? So what's the hubbub? That's our shout out to Linda Kay. What's your hubbub? That's her recent new get down of her piece of poetry. So that's one of my amazing dear friends, Dan. So when you think about the Me Too movement, let's get the history of the Me. Look at me, Dan. I got notes.
Okay.
I'm gonna give the full. This is Wikipedia, so don't get too wild inside everybody. So I know my daughter's gonna get mad like, "Mommy, you can't get that off Wikipedia." I'm like, "Look, it works for me right now." So what we're gonna do? Rashid, you familiar with it?
Yes.
Okay, so you gonna help me with this in case I'm like, if you hear anything that sounds a little razzle-dazzly wrong or anything like that. So anything stands out, please chime.
Sure.
The Me Too movement, with a large variety of local and international related names, is a movement against sexual harassment and sexual assault. The phrase Me Too was initially used in this context on social media beginning in 2006 on MySpace by sexual harassment survivor and activist Tarana Burke. Similar to other social justice and empowerment movements based upon breaking silence, the purpose of Me Too, as initially voiced by Burke, as well as those who later adopted the tactic, is to empower women through empathy and strengthen members, especially the young and vulnerable women, by visibly demonstrating how many women have survived sexual assault and harassment, particularly in the workplace. Following the exposure of the widespread sexual abuse allegations against Harvey Weinstein in early October 2017, the movement began to spread virally as a hashtag on social media. On October 15, 2017, American actress Alyssa Milano posted on Twitter, quote, if all the women who have been sexually harassed or assaulted wrote Me Too as a status, we might give people a sense of magnitude of the problem, saying that she got the idea from a friend. A number of high-profile posts and responses from American celebrities such as Gwyneth Paltrow, Ashley Judd, Jennifer Lawrence, Uma Thurman, among others, soon began to follow the trend. Widespread media coverage and discussion of sexual harassment, particularly in Hollywood, led to high-profile firings as well as criticism and backlash. After millions of people started using the phrase and hashtag in this manner, it spread to dozens all over the world and throughout other languages. The scope has become somewhat broader with this expansion, however, and Burke has more recently referred to it as an international movement for justice for marginalized people in marginalized communities. Are we all okay with that definition for tonight's purpose of discussion? Rashida, are you okay with that? I could see a little bit of
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Like, I've also seen the Me Too movement being used as a weapon. Like, I've seen it used to where it has been used to where women have been able to use this just wave and just use that platform to then speak their quote unquote truth when in reality it wasn't the truth. Like, when they were just riding the wave and then basically, fed lies into the Me Too movement, where I've also seen the actual Me Too movement where the idea around it is fantastic. Because you're supposed to expose and bring awareness to injustices that happen within the workplace, especially when it comes to sexual assault that happens abundantly with women. But you also have to take into account that the opposite happens as well.
the flip side.
Yes.
Is there an example that you can point to of someone saying something that wasn't end up being true?
The main example which just popped up would be Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Yes, that would be the main example that I could recollect that pops up, where she accused him of just
abuse, right? Or domestic violence.
Yes,
Yeah.
of actually domestic violence and abuse, which caused him to get fired from Pirates of the Caribbean, which we now later discovered that wasn't actually the
It
case.
was her accusing him, right?
Right, based on the audio files that we listened to, that it turns out that she was actually manipulating and was actually the abuser in the situation, and yet she was able to actually keep her job as an actress for Aquaman. And so we have a petition out that's supposed to call for her job for the next Aquaman movie, which is supposed to be coming out the next year. And they're calling for her job the way that
But that hasn't happened.
right,
She
that
hasn't
hasn't
lost
happened
that
yet.
job yet.
No, not yet. So we're still waiting on a verdict for that.
So, do we feel like there's a scenario where, I hear you say that sometimes women could be using it as a weapon,
Yes.
almost as like you know how sometimes, Dan, we always have people that may sometimes cry wolf. Is that what I'm kind of hearing? What are you hearing from that?
I mean, I feel like that's probably an isolated incident, and I agree that that's completely wrong, what she did. Off the top of my head, I can't think of many examples of that happening, but that's certainly not, a good thing that she did.
No, absolutely not. Lori, what about you? I mean, I know there's a lot that happened on the university campuses with regard to the Me Too movement. George, I'm definitely, savoring it. But Lori, have you seen change from a university level with regard to working with your students and so forth, with what you can disclose?
Well, you know, I kind of have mixed, mixed feelings about it. I think overall, the university has had a much quicker response, right? And that's just, we needed it. We were one of the worst
Offenders.
schools as it came to documenting and supporting victims of sexual violence and prevention programs. And over the past 5 years, that has really changed. The one thing that I can say, kind of tying into what Rashid has said, is that it has created a level of unspoken, but an environment that kind of assumes the accuser, who makes the accusation, is true. You know, it makes that, nobody comes out and says that. And I say this, for example, okay, I'm not gonna name names, but at my place of employment, we had 2 students that had a bit of an issue. One student, they're both acting students, and one student developed an attraction to the female student because of the intimacy of the scenes that they were engaged in. And so he began to really suffer in that line between what are we feeling in this scene, which creates an incredible level of believability because that's your goal, right? Opposed to what's happening once we say end and we're in real life, right? So she wasn't particularly interested in. Pretty good kid for the most part, but comes from a very rural part of America and is now in the big city and is kind of stumbling a little bit to find his way. But he made a statement, an alleged statement, because neither one of us heard it directly. But the female student said that when she told him that she didn't want these advances, that he said, well, the last time I felt this way about someone, I hurt them.
The X-Radio.com.
And so we're mandatory reporters, so bam, got a report, right? The faculty who teach this young person all felt that he was just like, he needed an opportunity for us to talk to him as a school, right? Before we get to the escalation of the Sexual Assault and Violence Office, LAPD, restraining orders, on and on and on. So when I call our level 1 reporting, instantly it escalated up to the sexual violence reporting and restraining order level. Even though we said, hey, we needed opportunity, we haven't brought to this person's attention that perhaps, you know, their behavior is inappropriate, this is the student code of conduct, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And if I rewind this story, and Dan, you may know, like if this was 8 years ago, 10 years ago, we wouldn't have escalated that quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
So I do think that Me Too, although I am in support of Me Too, and actually astonished, were you guys astonished of the level of sexual assault? I mean, you kind of hear about it in Hollywood, so you're like, oh yeah, the cast and cast, and I can't wait to hear all the
I
inside
know,
story about that.
easy.
But outside, women that came out from business corporations and education and all of public service, all across the disciplines that were really victims of Me Too. I do think there are some individuals, as it is with anything, you know, people begin to abuse that, like, oh, you know, I can pull the Me Too card. Used to be the race card, right?
See,
I'll
that's
pull the
what I
race
think
card.
we should- that's what you're
Try to
talking
get it
about.
moving. I'll
That's
pull the Me
right.
Too card, and I'll get a little more attention. So, I think when you think about the good outweighing the bad, I think it's good that we're in this heightened level of attention and response time. But I do think sometimes we rush to judgment. There isn't that due process that happens, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that, and then the burden of proof,
Right.
that's a big issue. Where does the
Right.
burden of proof lie when
Right.
those issues and subjects come up? You know, we watched the movie, saw Brian Banks' story,
Right.
you know, which would have been a USC kid, you know, but career got derailed from an allegation we found out later that wasn't true. But the Me Too movement it is an awesome movement.
Yes.
Because women, they need that protection. And unfortunately, the majority of men have been abusing it.
I mean, the problem too is it's been going on for years and years and years, and
Mhm.
forever and ever and ever, and not just in the entertainment industry, but in all areas.
Yeah.
You know, when men and women started working together.
Right.
And it's just, I feel like almost it's something that its time has kind of come, just because it's just been happening for so long that it just sort of became normal behavior, and people didn't even sort of notice that there was anything wrong about it until all these stories of things started coming out, and people really started talking about it and looking at it, you know, much more carefully.
Right, it's the price of doing business.
What
Right.
about, I'm thinking of Kathy Bates. She made a comment that old school days, it just meant the casting couch. I mean, if you were going back to a room, if you were going anything in the back, it pretty much solidified what was going to happen. And you may not know the extent of the sexual exchange. You don't know if it's gonna be a blowy versus a something elsey. But something's about to go. What, Jay? Something's about to go down. Now, what do you think? What? You
it's-
sat back then, Shannon. I need to know. What's
what's the
going
sitting
on?
back
That
Yeah,
was
you know what
Dan
I'm saying?
Shannon.
Where's the couch, man?
Yeah.
I think it's more about power. It's not about sex. It's about power is really what it is. And you know, and that's what's so unfortunate, especially in the entertainment industry, is because if you're talking about producers or, you know, showrunners or studio executives and people who hold a lot of power over somebody else's career, specifically actors, in the Harvey Weinstein case especially that was true. This is somebody who is making or breaking people's careers basically overnight, and he wielded a lot of influence and a lot of power in the industry and over these people, and so they felt sort of compelled to kind of go along to get along, you know, and I think finally it just kind of exploded and backfired on him, but I think it's more to do with power than even sex sometimes. Yeah.
Uh-oh. George, what are you thinking?
Unfortunately, that power is sex, because we live in a sexually driven industry and society. And it's overpowering most of TV and media right now, so.
And also, when you're talking about bartering or leverage, you know, what other, for instance, like a young actor just trying to get their start or get a break somewhere, somehow, you know, what else do they have to use for leverage is, you know, really just themselves, so,
Is that wrong?
yes. Unequivocally.
100%.
Yeah.
100.
Really, it comes down to
Since
choice.
why you over there, you like, yeah, Jackie, it's wrong. Why you even asking that question?
Here's the thing, so, I've been doing this, I was in casting for many, many years, and it was always something that I was very, very conscious about. I think I mentioned this to you in our little phone conversation, but, you know, when I would audition kids, I would make sure to leave my office door open, so that there would never be any questions.
You did, yeah.
I was in a relationship probably most of the time that I was working in casting, but I made a specific point of not dating actors, so God forbid there would ever be sort of a gray area that was a line that was to cross. And I think that, you know, actors, especially young actors just coming up, developmental, trying to get started, are very, very vulnerable, and I think it's just not fair to take advantage of people that way and to put them in that position. It's really, the balance is very unfair, I think.
But see, that's when I say it all comes back to choices. You have to establish your character, your boundaries, your line that cannot be crossed.
Right.
In lieu of that, you may not ever make it to that stardom or whatever the case may be. When you don't establish that, then you're pretty much doing anything. And that's with anything in life. So it's still your choice. I mean, you have to decide what's right or wrong for you,
Well,
what you
I
can
mean-
live with at the end of the day.
I mean,
But I mean, the problem is that
Some people-
I agree with you that to a certain extent, you know, we make our choices, but at the same time, if you've got somebody like Harvey Weinstein who is forcing women, you know, to have sex with them in his hotel room, or raping women, as he's been accused of doing, or Matt Lauer, or all these other guys.
Convicted of.
Yes, convicted of, yeah.
Convicted of, yes.
You know, that's a little different. I mean,
Oh,
I don't know that those women had much of a choice.
Yes,
You
I
know,
agree with that.
he forced himself on them and used his power and his influence and intimidation, and he's got staff members working for him, and he's got, you know, sort of all this infrastructure around him.
You know?
Yeah, that's a perfect example.
Yes.
You know, R. Kelly is having sex with 13-year-old girls. I
Right.
mean, you know, that's just wrong.
Mhm.
And yes, I mean, can you say that a 13-year-old girl has a choice to say yes or no? I mean, I guess she does, but, you know, not really.
But I think it shows the level of desperation
Right.
of individuals,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Because some people, oftentimes, you know, people come from impoverished backgrounds.
True.
Or not all actors come from a line or a family of actors, right? Where they're like the Barrymore girl,
Mhm,
you know, who grew up, Drew.
Drew Barrymore,
Who
yeah.
grew up in a family of entertainers.
Right.
Sometimes you're that outlier, right? Who nobody's eating at your spot, and meals are really scarce.
All you
Right.
gotta do is
And
just one little.
All
act.
you gotta do is sleep with JoJo.
Yeah.
And bam, our whole life is gonna change. And
That's
I
true.
think in the R. Kelly thing, we saw families giving their children,
Michael Jackson,
Yes.
the
Right.
Michael Jackson, the same
you know,
thing.
kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, George, if
Yeah.
I think people have that internal, I need to set those boundaries, but sometimes, you know, it's survival.
People
And
feel like
that
they don't
makes
have a
it-
choice.
Right, they
Yeah.
figure like, I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Okay, playing devil's advocate.
There we go, here we
Okay,
go.
let's say.
Uh-oh.
This is
Yikes
Yikes Radio.
Okay, let's say we use the same theory with a drug dealer.
Okay,
Or with someone that lives in the hood or wherever they live that they don't have food, so they can't get a job. So we say, okay, you get to make the choice whether you want to sell, you know, break the law, become incarcerated.
Oh God,
You know what I'm
damn,
saying?
George.
Then you
That's
go-
my
That's my whole community. Talking mass incarceration.
Hey, because they have the same
that's everybody
decision
but
making.
me and Jackie on the
Right.
right.
But it's not power. Power
Exactly.
is not involved.
Hey guys,
have a
we have a
caller?
caller. Hello, caller. You're on the air.
There's no power.
Hello, you on the air.
Roddy Rod.
Hello. Hello, G. Lou. How are you doing tonight? Yay! Thank you so much. Please tell everybody who you are. I'm amazed, but I think you should use your voice to tell everybody. Please.
as far as casting for movies or whatever the case may be, aren't being held accountable now. My only question is this, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but with the women in the Me Too movement that are coming forward, I have a problem with, my only problem is that it comes along so late, like we have issues and cases now where people are being convicted or being held accountable where 20 years later. My problem is, or can the women come up front when this is taking place, you know, because it takes two to do these things, you know what I mean? And the women have to be held accountable too for what they're doing or letting being done to them to get a movie role or whatever they're doing. So my question is this: what part do the women play in letting these things happen? You know, to where they happen and now it's coming along years later where they're coming forward and talking about it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's not right at all, but the women have to, respect themselves more enough to not let these things happen to them at that time. If it's just to get a movie role or whatever the case may be, or they're scared or whatnot, or I don't know what the case may be, but, the women involved in this have to, take more responsibility for themselves as well, to not let these things happen for them, to them in the first place.
If I can use an example from my own life and my own experience to sort of answer that, it happened to me with a coworker, male coworker, a producer that I was working for. It was a new job for my business partner and myself. It was the first regular sort of television series that we had booked as casting directors. So it was our first sort of high-profile studio network job as a casting director on a regular hit television series. After working for many years, in independent films and smaller productions and stuff, it was sort of our first mainstream, sort of very important gig. And the first year on our show, this gentleman who was on staff, he just was constantly sort of picking at me and I think he was straight, but he just was always on me, and he was always poking me and flirting with me and touching me, and it was always very inappropriate. He was always pretending like he was kidding around, and one day we were in a meeting, and he was walking, I don't want to get too graphic, but he was walking behind me, and we were in a room full of people, and he grabbed me from behind, between my legs, and
Yikes,
bumped up against
radio.com.
me. Sorry, can I say all
You
this?
can absolutely.
Yikes, radio.
And sort of whispered in my ear something incredibly crude and rude. And I was mortified. I was mortified and devastated. And we had just gone through, we were working for a big television studio, and we had just gone through sexual harassment training where they tell you sort of how dedicated they are to stopping this kind of behavior. And I didn't know what to do, and I wanted to report him, and I wanted to take it further to the HR department, and my partner actually talked me out of it, partly because we were brand new on this show. It was our first season, it was our first couple of episodes. It was our biggest opportunity that we've had in our career. We had a steady, as independent casting directors, when you get onto a steady show that runs for years, I mean, those are jobs that you want to hold on to. And so I was sort of talked into not saying anything and not really making a big deal about it. And it finally kind of went away. He ended up going to another show, and nothing kind of ever came of it. But I was in a position where I could either speak up or potentially lose the best opportunity I had had thus far in my career. And also, I had a partner also to consider, a business partner. So I guess I made that choice, that I wanted to keep that job, and so I didn't say anything.
What do you think about that, Gino? Did you hear the comment?
Yes, I heard him, and I understand, that's what I think is really what's going on. Things happen like that, and no one speaks up. This enables these people, who's ever doing this, to do this for it. It makes it comfortable that they can do it, and someone's gonna speak up, so they'll have numerous cases of this type of activity going on over the years. That was just my comment on it, that these things take place, and if no one speaks up, it carries on, and this enables.
Well, no one speaks up. No one speaks up because they're afraid. And they're afraid to lose their livelihood. They're afraid to lose their job. They're afraid, if you've got a family or if you've got a mortgage and a car. I mean, people are afraid, and they don't want to rock the boat, and they don't want to lose these opportunities that they have worked so hard to get.
And I think another component of that is what you said earlier, Dan. It's about power, right? And so oftentimes, in the research that I've looked at, women or men, victims, don't report because they feel no one's going to believe them, right? There was a study that in the course of, I think it was 6 months, in the California area, there had been 1,000 reports of sexual assault, right? Whether it ranged from statutory all the way to full-blown rape. Out of that 1,000, the DA's office only took 7 cases to trial.
Yeah.
Because they felt that only 7 had a level of believability. So I think, Jilu, you talk about, or the question of why do women wait so long? I think sometimes they wait because they're that far away from the potential backlash that could happen.
Or the pain, or the pain.
Right,
that was
again, the
fulfilled.
pain.
Shock.
Right,
Yeah.
and
And
I
they're
think it doesn't,
also, and they're also seeing other people not get penalized too.
Right.
And they're seeing other people coming forward who then, you know, they don't make any progress with that report. I think that's part of it
Right.
too. And also, like in my case, I didn't have any proof.
Right.
It was literally gonna be my word against his. There was no videotape, no one else saw it. Do you know what I mean? I could have been making it all up for as far as anyone was concerned. I wasn't, but I didn't have any proof.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can just imagine, you know, a lot of these women and men, not just
Yeah,
women,
not just
but
women.
men as well, who were in the same situation. And I think people who don't come forward, I think there's a variety of reasons why,
I agree.
you know, people don't do that. I think the Me Too movement it sort of took the lid off things, and it allowed a lot of people to come forward that were too afraid to at the time. But I think it sort of gained momentum, and it sort of caused a snowball effect.
Literally, me too, like me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
But, you know, I was gonna say, that's kudos, the show. Gee, thanks for calling in, I really appreciate it, and I think that was a great point that you made. But in the discussion of what takes place on your show, Jackie, this is what I love about your show, is that, you know, the callers come in, we speak with no judgment. We have open conversation and open communication, but there is no judgment. That's beautiful, Dan, that you explain your situation, and as we begin to talk about it and dialogue about it, we conversate without judgment. We just share information to make sure we can bring awareness to what's going on and our thoughts on that. So I like the freedom and openness of the show, and people feeling free to call in, and people sit on the panel to express themselves without judgment. Beautiful.
Thank you so much, Georgia. I appreciate that. See, look at that, guys. Thank you. Uh-oh, my sissy's looking at the clock, guys. No, Facebookers, everybody, G-Lou, you guys stay with us. Lori and I do a little bit of a switch here. We do like our little mid-show shenanigans. You guys stay with us, Facebook. I switch out and do some things with our YouTube, and Lori kind of takes a poll and see what's happening. And then Rashid's with us tonight. We're gonna play some old school fun music. So give me something, maybe a little Dr. Dre. Let's do Dr. Dre, The Watcher. And we also gonna do, right? And then we're gonna do that easy. G-Lou, you got, look, you on the request line. G-Lou, what you wanna hear tonight? Look, I'm top dog tonight, G-Lou. Yeah? What else you want on top of that though? Look, you always asking people, you wanna, yeah, easy, boom. You ain't got nothing for me? But it's giving Rashid time to pull it up for us. So he gonna pull up The Watcher. We gonna get that going. I know, oh God, I wish I knew this one song you guys played on your show the other night. I'm gonna come up with it. I'm gonna give you guys something nice for you, G-Lou, okay? All right, guys, you covered like a blanket. All righty. Woo! All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break here on the Poetry of Justice show with Jackie Ray Phillips on YikesRadio.com. We'll be back. Boom.